Merry Meet, and welcome to Psalmic Saturday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga, and we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. Where's my stuff here? Oh, there it is. Moderating today over on YouTube is the lovely Dre, and moderating on Twitch is the lovely Honeypaw. Thank you so much, moderators, and thank you to everybody for joining us for this Psalm spell today. We will get going in just a moment. A reminder, in case you didn't know already, why is this video not working? Oh, it is. Okay. We have a premiere today at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific, right after this stream is finished. So we invite you to join us on my YouTube channel for that. And let's see, we have... I don't know what's wrong with this darn video. That's okay. I'll fix it later. We'll get through this. We have, like I said, a premiere at 11 a.m. On our YouTube channel. That's Pacific time. And then we'll have another premiere on Monday morning at 11 a.m. as well. So I hope that you can join us on Monday as well as today for those premieres. We are here every Saturday doing a psalm spell. We'll be back tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. for a live stream lecture as well. We have a shop, and that's at arielscornershop.com. arielscornershop.com. We have all kinds of beautiful merchandise, including psalm books that you can buy, and we make a small commission off of each and every sale. We do appreciate your support. Another way to support us is by giving a donation, and you can do that by going to paypal.me/arielgatoga, paypal.me/arielgatoga. If you're watching live on YouTube, you could use a super sticker or super chat if you feel like giving a donation in the chat thread. And if you're watching on a restream, you could do that by using a super thanks. We don't charge for anything at Ariel's Corner. And so if you want to take advantage of all of our free resources, you can go to our main website at ariels-corner.com, Ariel's Corner with a hyphen.com. We have all kinds of free booklets, we have free courses, free guided meditations, and a whole slew of wonderful resources for you. We have a Discord server. You can get to that if you want to join in our wonderful discussions. There should be there's usually links in the chat thread, but if you're listening on a restream, just know that the Discord server invitation link changes frequently. So go to the website, ariels-corner.com, click on the forum, and you'll get a pop-up that gives you the most recent link for the Discord server. We also have a Facebook group if you'd like to join us for discussions on Facebook, and you can find the link to that Facebook group right in the video description of this video on YouTube. We have chat threads available open on each of these threads. Please chat to your heart's content. If you happen to have a question for me personally, you can put it right in the chat thread, and I will do my best to get to it by the end of the stream. We are on a time crunch today, though, because we do have that premiere. So we should get going with our psalm spell. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the moderators so very much for being here as well. And let's get going with our psalm spell. Today we are working a Psalm 10. Psalm 10 is actually part 2 of a 2-part acrostic psalm. That means that each verse starts with a different letter successively of the Hebrew alphabet in the original language. So there are several of those, and this is split up over 2 psalms. So we are working Psalm 10, which is the second half of that acrostic psalm. However, we are working Psalm 10 as its own psalm today. Now, Psalm 10 can be used for all kinds of different things, but today what we're using it for is for destroying a specific problem in our life. So if there's a problem that you're having, you can use Psalm 10 to utterly destroy that problem. The way we work psalm magic is very simple and effective. We take the psalm in question and we read it out loud all the way through once without stopping. We call this an incantation. Once you've finished your incantation, you go back through that same psalm and you consider each verse in turn. You search for hidden occult meanings within the text. We call these magic seeds. And it's by searching, digging, and applying what you find there to the problem that you've brought to the psalm that you are in effect taking those magic seeds that you're discovering and planting them deeply in the fertile grounds of your mind, where they take root, they grow, they blossom forth, and then they bear fruit after their kind. And that is exactly what you and I are going to do together today with Psalm number 10. Okay, in a moment we will. My Kindle just closed. Come on, Psalm 10. Here you are, little baby. Why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them into his net. He croucheth, he humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He hath said in his heart, Thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the one man of earth may no more oppress. All right, so we want to call to mind, if you have something, what the problem is that you're here to solve. And we say destroy. That is just an ancient way of saying solve, because everything's so dramatic in the Psalms. So it starts off asking the Lord why he's standing so far away. So let's first off orient ourselves toward not only our problem that we are getting solved, but who the Lord is. So we have to remember that the Lord is a pre-gender force. There is only one, the one source of the universe. Now, that's not the same as saying something is monotheistic. Monotheism almost always, there could be monotheistic religions that I'm not aware of, but most monotheistic points of view believe that there's one God, but that God is separate from its creations. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that there's only one power, and you're part of it. We're all part of it. And there's nothing that can oppose it. There's nothing that can thwart it. There's nothing that can stand against it. And anything that appears to stand against it or be not like that infinite power is part of what we call the ego mind, which is a belief in separation. And that belief in separation is something that we have taken on ourselves in our minds. It's not true, but we believe it's true. And all of our problems come from this idea that we are separate from this one power. So it says, why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? And it does seem like that, doesn't it? It seems like, okay, what's going on here? Why is there no help here? There is no Lord. There is no power. There's only me and my problem. Anytime that I think that there's some kind of higher power, it's only when things are going well. It's never happening when things are going bad, right? So where is this thing? Why is this higher power that's supposed to be able to be all-knowing, all-powerful, all-helpful? Why is it not here helping me? And that's an important thing to ask ourselves. It's important to give word to give voice to these feelings. We don't want to suppress them. I think a lot of people that are very pious have a problem doing that because they think they're somehow going to offend God. God's not offendable. God can't be offended. You bring it all. You bring it on. And you heal by going through things. So part of the reason why we have these problems is because we are afraid to go through this experience of thinking that we're all alone and we're separate and that there is no God, or if there is, that this God doesn't want to have anything to do with us or is too busy or something. Lost our file is one that we hear, right? So it says, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Okay, so two things. One, the ego mind, that part of us that believes in separation, first and foremost doesn't exist, but we believe it does because we contemplate it. That's the power of our mind. The power of our mind is such that we can experience anything that we believe. It's our power of belief is such that what we truly believe in deeply is what we experience. And so if we really have convinced ourselves that something is true, even if it's not, we experience it as if it were true. And so it's saying that the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. So what that part of our mind is programmed to do, that ego mind, is to persecute us. Now the poor means the innocent. The poor means the poor in spirit. The poor means that part of us that knows that we are one with infinite intelligence. If you know that you're one with infinite intelligence, then you know you're dependent on infinite intelligence. It's like you're like a beam of light coming out of the sun, and you're dependent on the sun shining for your light to shine. That doesn't mean that you're not a unique, wonderful expression of it, but that means that if there were no sun, there'd be no you. So that's the poor. So the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. So the pride of the ego is the idea that you could be persecuted, that you could be separate from this. And it's trying to convince you, because that's how we've programmed that ego mind to be. That's how we all have. Okay, so it's important to understand this, that we are being persecuted by our own cleverness, by our own mind. It's our own genius turned against us. And we've allowed that to happen even though we don't remember it. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. In other words, let evil destroy itself. Let the ego destroy itself. I don't need to be involved with that. Think about the water on the Wicked Witch of the West in the movie of The Wizard of Oz. The reason why the water got on the Wicked Witch of the West isn't because Dorothy was trying to destroy her. It wasn't that Dorothy had some plan to destroy the witch with water. She didn't even know water did that. She was trying to help her friend who was in trouble. Her friend was on fire, and so she got whatever she could find and threw that fire on, threw that water on the burning scarecrow. She was the poor. And what happened is, because of her compassion, because of her acting like the soul that she is, that water splashed onto the Wicked Witch and destroyed her. That's how evil destroys itself. That's how your ego destroys itself. Not by you trying to destroy the ego, but by you reclaiming your innocence. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. Now the Lord abhorreth the covetous, meaning when it says that the Lord abhors things, it just means that that's not the truth, and God can only see the truth. God can only see the truth. And so anything that doesn't look like the truth, the Psalms say that God hates those things. It's not that God is seething about things that aren't true. It's that God does not see them. God does not give any power to them because they are not real. And that's what the ego boasts about. The ego boasts about everything that God is not, trying to convince us that this is an unsafe world, that these problems are beyond our ability to solve, and that there's nothing that can help us. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. So the ego doesn't seek after God because the ego doesn't want God. The ego knows that if God's in the mind, that it gets shined away as the lie that it is, as the nothing that it is. So the ego doesn't exist as anything other than a voice in your head. And once you have the voice of God in your head, then there is no more ego. And the ego doesn't want that because it still has a survival instinct because we created it. We made it. We made it. So it's sort of like how we were made in God's image. Our ego was made in our image. And our ego was something that we shouldn't have made because our ego is like Frankenstein's monster, right? And so the only way out of that ego mind, the only way out of these unsolvable problems that the ego comes up with is by turning to infinite intelligence, because the light shines away the darkness. But if we try to battle with the darkness, all we do is get locked into it. So the ego is not going to think of God. But if we think of God, then the ego is destroyed. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. For as for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. So this is a text that is explaining the nature of the ego actually quite beautifully. And this psalm really confounds a lot of religious scholars because it's got so many odd things in the Hebrew that they don't understand. But if you look at it from the point of view of it really just giving you a rundown of what the ego is, it's pretty easy to understand. His ways are always grievous. So grievance is how the ego is made. Your grievances are the ego. Once you give up your grievances, once you forgive your enemies, so to speak, the ego has no more. The ego is no more. And then your problems are solved because you don't have the problem machine, which is your ego, cranking them out for you anymore. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. So God judges you rightly. God made you as an extension of pure love. And so God knows that you aren't an ego. God knows that you're nothing but perfection. God knows that you are innocent and pure and powerful and prosperous and free and fabulous and beautiful and all good, that happiness is your divine right, that you are of the royal family of the infinite. So yeah, God's judgment is way above the ego. The ego doesn't even understand that kind of stuff. It doesn't even comprehend that. And it says, as for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. So that you know when the ego's on the scene, when you get all wrapped up in it and you start hating people and puffing at them and getting arrogant about them and having all of these reasons why you're right, and even defending your problems. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. This is just the way it is. That's you puffing at your enemies. And you don't want to take on the ego's voice as your own. That's how it hooks you. It makes you believe that that's you thinking those things, when all it is a tape running in your mind. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. So the ego believes that it can dig its heels in and withstand the slings and arrows of infinite intelligence. And the way it does that is by keeping you allegiance to it. So the second that you start questioning those negative thoughts in your mind and you start saying, this isn't me, this isn't my voice, this is an imposter voice that I allowed that I programmed a long time ago, and I'm still under its spell. I put a spell on myself. Once you realize that, it loses its power over you, and it will be moved. but it doesn't, it tells you that it won't be moved because it tells you that it's your savior. It's your salvation. Listen, the only way through this is by listening to me. We're going to concoct a big plan. We're going to come up with a way through this. And you know what happens when you listen to that voice in your head? It doesn't get better. It gets worse. And then another problem comes up. And how does the ego handle that? Well, couple ways. One way is that the ego comes up with all kinds of plans to get you out of this problem that it created for you. And then you say, okay, well, then we'll do that. And you do those things and they blow up in your face. One thing the ego does is say, why'd you do that? You're so stupid. Look at you. How stupid are you? And then you start feeling bad about yourself, right? You know that. Or the other way is that it distracts you from it completely and just says, no, that's not happening. That's not happening. Let's look over there. Look over there. Look over there. Either way, it's digging its heels in. It believes, it says, I shall never be in adversity. It believes that its way can overturn infinite intelligence. So in other words, it's completely insane. It's the least sane part of our mind. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. So overtly, it's deceitful. Overtly, it curses. Overtly, it's fraudulent. And also covertly, it's mischievous and vain. So if it can't get you straight on, it'll try to get you in covert ways. If you just assume that the ego is going to try those things, and you just take it as what that is, you just get up in the morning and you say, okay, the ego is going to try to get me today. What that does is it doesn't set you up for failure, it sets you up for success. Because then you say, so therefore, I'm only going to listen to peaceful thoughts because I know that those thoughts come from infinite intelligence. Infinite intelligence is always leading me out of problems, always leading me out of the ego. If I listen to the voice in my head that's always getting me upset and tense and trying to figure stuff out, then I know I'm getting stuck. So just assume that the ego is going to try to do those things with you. If you just assume that, then you're ready. You're ready for it, and it can't touch you because you look only to infinite intelligence instead. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. That's its whole job, is to sit in the darkness and wait to attack. And then when it does that, it always makes you believe that you're the guilty one. You did that, right? So when you get these impulses to attack other people or to attack yourself, just take a beat. Because sometimes when we attack another person, even in our mind, it's not like everybody's, like literally attacking people, but in our mind, when we have judgments against other people, just recognize that it's not what it seems to be. It's the ego trying to get you hooked. It's just its MO. It's how it keeps you stuck in problems. So when those judgmental thoughts come up, those attacking thoughts, either about other people or about yourself, question them. Just say, this can't be from infinite intelligence because infinite intelligence doesn't operate by attacking. Therefore, it must be another voice, a voice that I don't want to listen to, that is trying to lead me here. So instead, I'm going to ask myself to listen to the voice of infinite intelligence, which is the voice for peace, and I'm going to follow that peaceful path safely out of each and every problem. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth into his net. Yeah, it happens again and again and again. We're always getting sucked in to it. We're always getting sucked into this nonsense in our minds about whatever the story happens to be, about how bad these people are, how bad you are, how bad your problems are, how there's no way out. There's a litany, a never-ending litany of why your life sucks. And as long as you're listening to the litany, it keeps you busy. It keeps you stuck there. It keeps you not even thinking there could be another way. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. It really thinks he's going to win. See, because the thing about this that the ego doesn't get, because it is so insane, is that even if you do go through all of these problems, even if you are caught again and again and again, that doesn't change your essential nature. Nothing the ego does can change who you are. You are perfect. You are a child of the infinite. You are all powerful. You have everything that you need to have all of these problems solved and be happy for eternity, right here and right now, because infinite intelligence gave that to you at your creation. So it's all about us recognizing that we're listening to an imposter voice trying to get us to stay stuck, trying to get us to feel small, trying to get us to feel separate, trying to get us to feel everything that is not what infinite intelligence is teaching us. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face. He will never see it. Yeah, you know you've got that it's got you when you're thinking, oh, nothing's ever going to work for me. There is no God. There is no infinite intelligence. Nothing could possibly work. Look how bad it is. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Those kinds of thoughts, you know that you're hooked. So when you're feeling those thoughts, don't feel bad about yourself for thinking those thoughts. It's normal. We all get hooked by the ego. It's what we do here. But just recognize, I must be thinking wrongly. I must be thinking with the thoughts of my ego and not from the thoughts of infinite intelligence. And catch yourself. Be vigilant and just say, listen, and you ask your teacher. You have your own teacher right within you. You say, I know that this isn't right because I'm not feeling peaceful. I know that there's another way to think. I don't know how to do that. Please show me. Please do it for me. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. And this, I just gave you a foreshadowing of this verse here. This is what we do. We say, oh, wait a minute, arise, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. In other words, I'm going to wake up to the fact that I just got hooked again. So I'm going to ask, if I'm not at peace, that's the indication that I'm listening to the wrong voice. So I'm going to call on infinite intelligence to wake me up. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Because you are humble. Your ego is arrogant, but you can't be. You can't be. Try as you might. You couldn't ever be arrogant if you wanted to. That's not how your soul was made. You can't be arrogant any more than you could be a piece of fabric. Or that you could be, like a rock. You're not a rock, right? You're not a piece of fabric. You're not a drop of water. You're an extension of infinite intelligence. And as an extension of infinite intelligence, you can't be arrogant because you shine. There's no reason to be arrogant. Arrogance means that you're separate from your creator. Humility means that you're one with your creator and you're shining brightly and you are magnificent. That's not arrogance. Arrogance is, I'm in trouble. I'm always lowly. Everything's dark. Everything's out to get me. Nothing will ever work for me. That's arrogance. We have it backwards in this world, and that's another trick of the ego. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He had said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. This is that one of the verses that nobody really knows what it means because there was no real translatable Hebrew. No, it was so the words were so garbled and not understandable. But when I'm reading this, what I get is wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. God told you that God doesn't require sacrifice. God doesn't require that you go through these problems. God's not testing you. God doesn't say, well, we're going to, like there's that idea of that God's refining you like a refiner's fire. And so all these problems are just making you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That does help you get through hard times. And so that can be helpful. But ultimately, that's not how God operates. God operates by you remembering who you are, and then everything changes. You don't have to go through a process. God has seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thine hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. In other words, infinite intelligence doesn't will that you have this problem. So if you call in infinite intelligence when you are wrapped up in the creator of the problem, which is your ego, then it's undone for you. You're untied from it completely. You can't do that for yourself, but infinite intelligence can. Because you're so used to the ego's ways, to expect that you know how to do it is like if you went back to that art lesson again and you didn't know what the problem was. You had to go to a teacher to have them show you, see, this is how you do it. Oh, and now you're okay, right? Now everything's great. Same with this. You can't expect yourself to solve this problem on your own. Infinite intelligence, though, is no problem. There's nothing that's difficult for infinite intelligence. And infinite intelligence is not only able, but is eager to solve this problem for you. But you have to stop trying to solve it yourself. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. So, infinite intelligence, please judge this situation. Please judge this problem. And what'll happen is that when God judges something, God sees what's real and what's not real. And it starts separating the false from the real. The real is where the solution is. The false is where the problem is. And that's how, because of that sorting out process that infinite intelligence does, that's how it so-called breaks the arm of the wicked and the evil man. It meaning when the arm is broken, it means that it has no more power to do this any longer, right? So it's not necessarily that God's punishing or destroying, but it can seem that way because the ability for your ego to have any control over you and to keep you stuck in this problem has ended. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. So the heathen are the self-destructive thought forms that were created by the ego to keep you stuck, to keep you in problem after problem after problem. Destroy yourself, destroy yourself, destroy yourself. That's the ego's dictum. And it's saying, but the Lord is king. If the Lord is king and you're a child of the Lord, what does that make you? A princess or a prince, right? That means that you're somebody. you're somebody. This ego thing is nothing. It's a nobody. And that's what the heathen is all of what the ego has created as thought forms for you to try to trip you up. So, but the Lord is king. You're a prince. You're a princess, and all of this stuff is no longer a problem for you, just because you're realizing it. It's like if you woke up one morning and you realize, oh wow, I can't believe that I was having a dream that I was poor. That was horrible in that dream. If I only was able to know in that dream that I'm not poor, when you wake up to the fact, let's say you woke up and you remembered, oh yeah, I forgot, I'm a multi-billionaire. I don't have to worry about money, right? If you woke up with that. But in the dream, you forgot and you thought you were all poor. It's the same thing here. You're waking up to the fact that this problem has already been solved. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble and will prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear. In other words, God knows what to do. God's already heard you. God's already handled it. The problem is already solved. Actually, the problem was solved the second you got into it. But you have to be able to be willing to let go of your control over this problem, your decisions about this problem, your need to be right about this problem, and be willing to be completely wrong and let infinite intelligence come in and correct it for you. To judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. So we don't only want to solve this problem, we want this to be now part of a repertoire where we can come back again and again and again. And anytime there seems to be a problem even forming, we can get right back to it. And all that solution then happens before it gets out of control again. So whatever your problem is, you just keep coming back to the psalm each and every day until you get a sense of peace and certainty that the problem's solved. And then once you get that sense of peace and certainty, that means the spell is taken. It's done, and you don't have to work on it anymore. You can move on to something else. Thank you so very much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be. And we do not have any questions, so we can end our stream. And I hope that I see you on our premiere. English? What is that? I hope you can join us on our premiere on YouTube that's happening at 11 a.m., just under 10 minutes from now. And thank you again to the amazing moderators. Today we had the lovely Dre and the lovely Honey Paw, and we will see you all really soon. Blessed be.